Welcome to Unicorn Nation, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, brought to you by the Unicorn Collective. My name is Mohammed Tariq, founder of Earth, and I have been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years.
My name is Keong Chunche, founder of IGL Coatings, and for the last 10 years, my nanotechnology coatings have been sold in over 50 countries worldwide.
My name is Gavin Liu, founder of the Makeover guys. And in the last 10 years, I've helped 50,000 people enjoy better homes.
The Unicorn Collective is a peer-to-peer leadership and learning community for mature and growth stage entrepreneurs.
While our in-person and live engagements are exclusively for members only, we believe that the knowledge gained and the lessons learned should be shared across a wider ecosystem and society at large. And that's how this podcast was born.
We hope these learnings will accelerate your entrepreneurial journey and perhaps pave your way to becoming Malaysia's next unicorn.
Today, we're diving deep into how two successful entrepreneurs have built their businesses from scratch to tens of millions in revenue, all without institutional funding. Joining me are my good friends, Gavin from the Makeover guys and Keong from IGL Coatings, who are both members of the Unicorn Collective. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So let's kick things with your origin story. Gavin, I really want to know what gets you to start the Makeover guys. A bad renovation or what?
It's actually something quite similar though. So I started investing in properties, I think, quite a while back. And what was supposed to be a very happy occasion, collecting the keys, turned out to be a really bad nightmare, right? So I realized after collecting keys, I had to furnish it out. I had to do a lot of things. And as a result, I sacrificed all my lunch breaks, all after work time, weekends, all trying to just figure out how do you do it. And I figured that, there has to be a better way of doing this. So in a nutshell, that was how the Makeover guys was born. I realized that, there should be a solution to help property investors maximize their returns through smart furnishing. But over time, it kind of evolved. We also realized what we're really doing is really helping society as a whole. And our vision turned into enabling people to enjoy better homes. That means, making it more accessible, be it whether you're a tenant or if it's for your own stay. We need to make it more accessible, more enjoyable, and, just build better homes.
But when you went through that experience yourself, like wouldn't you have been relieved to get rid of that? Like, what made you realize that, oh, I want to go through that pain all over and over again for the rest of the society?
Actually, that's a very good question. But after I got it down, I also realized that I rented out at very high rates, right? And as a result, suddenly my friends started asking, hey, what do you do with your house? Hey, can you do that for me? Can you do this for me? And that's sort of like how I realized that there's this gap.
Market gap, yeah.
Yeah. And if you really think back, I think around 10 years ago, houses in Malaysia in general is either, really nice ID, right? Spending a lot of money, or everyone else's houses looks like IKEA because that was the next best option, right? And there really wasn't anything in between. So the Makeover guys, was born to serve that in between, that gap.
But while you were talking just now, you used the word smart, and actually I do see that word a lot in the IKEA marketing. Yeah. So like smart home furnishings, while at the same time being affordable. So I think that you offer kind of the same thing but customizable,
yes,
which IKEA doesn't do. So that naturally I see the value there. Okay, let's see what made Keong actually start IGL Coding. So how did it go, man?
Wow. I'm going to give you the shorter version because
But give us the unfiltered entrepreneur version, not the PR version.
Okay. So basically, I started this 10 years ago, but it wasn't with intention actually. So at that time, I was actually employed as an engineer in an instrumentation company, and might not be a very good PR is that I'm actually a very lazy person. I'm trying to cut down on the amount of job that I'm actually working over there. So this is why I actually work out a solution that can be used for the machine to reduce my work time. But sadly, that solution was not able to be implemented in the company. So I end up figuring out, okay, what am I going to do with this? Can't figure out anything. But at the same time, right, my wife at the time, your friend in a way, told me that it looks so dangerous for you to be driving on the road from south, from central to south, then to north. And Malaysia weather, it's always raining, and I drive quite at a good speed at the time. So then I figured that, hey, I have this solution that actually is able to make the surface for the glass, the lens a lot more clean for a longer period of time. I'm like figuring like, okay, windscreen looks quite decent. Maybe I can actually employ the same area in the same place. So I try it out and like, hey, actually it works. And I test out durability and like it's not bad as well. So I solve my problem with my wife at the time and I was like, no, okay, I'm done with your complaint and I'll go solve this.
So that was a transparent service.
Correct,
Right? So
correct.
so how much of actually what you sell today is used on opaque versus transparent?
So all my solutions right now, right, are still transparent because this
wow.
is what we do. We do transparent coatings.
Okay.
So this is why we actually employ that into that surface. But I have actually expanded my solutions right to more than just glass. So that's how I actually kind of started kind of work for the car. Did it for a while. I'm like, hey, it's great. I would like to earn some side income. So then I actually start providing that solution because it works for me and I kind of like, okay, solve my problem and there's no solution in the market off the shelf. So I go and sell it part-time and got a few users and the user actually increased because the product itself sell by itself.
No.
And eventually I feel that like, it's not bad. The income is not too bad. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go dive in and start a business and operate this. So that's how I start the whole thing.
But that basically means like you bootstrapped. You took all your profits and you just reinvested them back again into the business. And the early days, you know, you basically like, were you taking any salary or you just kept reinvesting everything?
No, because at the time I actually employed, so I have my daytime
Okay,
salary,
right,
and then when I was doing my part time, that's like extra income, and then as that income grow, right, it became my capital that I actually started to invest into the business itself.
Okay, tell us what happened when you had like this holiday season or festive season, and then like your sales went through the roof, and you high-fived your team, and then you felt like, okay, I'm ready to quit my job, and you quit. Then what happened?
Even high five my even at the time I'm alone because I'm doing it
You
part
know
time.
that story, right?
No, I
No,
know
you
this
know
is the first time I'm hearing
Yeah,
it. So that's why, huh?
No, it's,
what happened?
it's even at the point of time, right, I'm alone. So I was just selling it part time, and when I actually gained enough of this revenue that I'm doing part time, right, then only I actually decided to quit my job. But at that point of time, right, I wanted to challenge myself more. So I actually bought a house. Yeah, and,
wow. Okay. Wow.
yeah,
Brave.
brave. And I actually got married too.
Oh,
Wow.
nice. Okay. That's a good one though. That
So I
keeps
did-
you focused.
All three together, just do all the pain and suffering one shot.
Do or die.
Yeah.
right?
Why drag it out? So yes, I went through the pain that Gavin had for the renovation. I was there with the renovation. So yes, I did all this together, and yeah, I had enough income for myself already from that my business in a way. Then I quit my job because I'm like, okay, it's going to sustain it. I'm going to do it myself.
And how did the revenues go after that?
It grew a bit, but then after it got a bit stagnant because there were challenges. It's not as rosy as I expected. After all, I'm kind of like a first-time entrepreneur at the time, like, thinking it's the best of the world and everything.
Yeah. Is it your wife is your co-founder or she helps in the business?
She joined at the later stage after that.
Okay. Because I met her and she also had like a IGL card, so
Correct, yes.
I know she works with you. Okay, Gavin, tell us, how
Yes.
did you bootstrap, man?
How did I bootstrap? I think I just bulldozed the way through, right? I guess, it's like Keong is do or die. When you don't have the luxury to fail, I believe that that's when you get really creative. Um, Long story short, I think in the first few years of the journey of building the Makeover guys, we needed to keep costs really lean. And because we had this profit sharing model with everyone. And I think that really helped accelerate our early day growth. But it reached a point where okay, this may not be sustainable because there's more to business than just the revenue team. We needed to grow many other parts of the business. We needed a bigger marketing team. We needed a finance team. We needed a lot of other things. And we needed to standardize stuff. And that's when I did a whole major org chart reshuffle. But at that stage, in the early days, how I bootstrapped was through a gig economy model.
But like we've been to your housewarming party, and I think there was like more supercars in front of your office than the Bitcoin conference. So, like, what's up with that? You know, no one was throwing money at you to grow the business.
No. These are
Okay.
just property owners.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so no institutional capital. I do know that you had some dabbling with angel investors, but I guess that angel investors are a bit different because they offer like sort of smart money. They help you open doors or they help you advise. So so institutional capital. So you did it without institutional capital. Did you intentionally avoid institutional capital, or it just that institutional capital wasn't, the market wasn't mature enough to be able to offer you something at the time 10 years ago?
Actually, even Angel also, I didn't have Angel,
Oh,
right?
you
So
didn't, but
yeah,
you had, right?
Yes.
Okay.
right. So I didn't have Angel. I didn't have any institutional. Um, what happened was in the early days, the whole organization was funded by me and my partner Vince's credit card, right? And yeah, but please please
Don't do that.
don't do that, don't do that,
try
don't
this
do
at
that,
home.
do that. Borrow responsibly. And the whole reason why I dared to do that was because, because of the industry I'm in, there is a certain down payment that I needed to collect before I started work, right? And because I already know that the sale is more or less closed, it's signed, I dared to use my credit cards to roll, to procure stuff and all that. So I applied a lot of credit cards, got a lot of credit, and just maxed it all out. That was how we started. Thankfully, I finally repaid my credit cards. Not that long ago.
Oh, wow.
It really wasn't that long ago that I managed to clear everything. Yeah, and as to your question about did we intentionally avoid institutional funding, I don't think that's the case, but I do feel that in our case, because the business is, pretty conventional, right? It's labor intensive, it's conventional, and to a lot of institutional investors, they may deem my industry as an unscalable industry because how many people has actually scaled the interior design, right? And I guess I needed to show that I have a model that's scalable before I actually approach institutional investors.
So are you at that stage right now or
Yes. So
about to?
finally, I think because currently we do around 100 a month. So
100 projects.
100 makeovers a month, right?
Wow.
So in a way that's handing over three every single day, which I think for B2C is quite rare. So hopefully, people start to appreciate the stuff that we've come up with.
So we are going to cover a bit later how
yeah.
you managed to actually make an unscalable business scalable. Like I heard the story, I know that you import your own material and stuff, but let's just actually go through a bit about the R&D process. In a business like yours, you are making bold scientific claims about because nano coating, like you apply it and then you see its effect over time. Like how do I know whether this is going to work for the length of time that you claimed, that it does actually what you say it does, and so on? That requires R&D, and it requires you to scientifically prove that, and that's not so easy to do when you don't have much budget in the beginning. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, that's true. So this is why, right? In the early days, when I developed the products, I wanted to go like into a lot of industry. I was from industrial background, and I wanted to go into industrial sector, right? But
Like sell everything to everyone, right?
yeah, especially to the large companies like oil and gas companies and everything. But then I realized that I'm really a nobody, out of nowhere. There's no like written like third party testing to be done. There's no like validation or of anything or track record. So that's when, right, I actually kind of like look back into the whole entire business model and like, okay, what's my lowest hanging fruit? And it's actually in the automotive. So there is still a little bit of room for the automotive. So this is why, right, that in a way when I actually developed the coatings, I did everything myself and I know exactly where it cannot perform. And like I mentioned this now, before I started, right, I actually used the product for that period of time.
Your customer zero.
Correct.
basically, yeah.
So I ran through a lot of multiple tests, and I know that in this certain environment here in Malaysia, it can actually provide me with that actual study that's needed. Of course, the next thing that I use a lot is my network, because if I don't have the resources or the financials right to do that, so what I'm going to do, I will then use my network. My job allow me to actually to know quite a fair bit of testing companies, friends who I can actually buy in favor, like call, not buy in, but like call in favor, right? To like, hey, please help me. Almost on the verge of begging to help me to do certain tests with the equipment, following the STM method in a kind of like, I would say, growth hack in a way. So I do all that's necessary to get the results actually needed to prove, but that is still not enough for the at-large company asset owner. So this is why I went into the automotive world where the requirement are actually a lot lower, but still, I actually initiated all these steps of proving it, because at that point of time, 10 years ago, right, nobody know much about coatings for automotive, and there is no regulation or like self-control in terms of like validation of the data that's over there. So this is how I actually do most of things over there.
And I'm sure that you've come across like a lot of scams, like claims of nano coating, from other countries that claim a lot of things but actually don't work. So are they like real competition to you? Because I'm sure that they're cheap because their stuff doesn't work. So they're probably cheaper than yours.
So that's also another problem. So this is why, right, we don't really just make the claim, we actually prove it. And in a lot of things that we do, right, we do like self audit, self due diligence, and this is not actually necessary to be done. And we do all of this. We got ourselves nano verified. We got ourselves with nanographene actually audited. We got in auditors who come in and audit our process.
Wow.
There are certain funds that we can do, and some early stage, right, we got help from the government agencies as well. We got some of things done, and then we prove all this data by a third party validation. So we get all these things done, and then we put it out there. But like you mentioned, yes, there are a lot of products like that. So yeah, how do you know that there is actually that technology that you claim over there? And no one will know, they can't tell. So it's just about claims.
But all these processes seem expensive. So did you reach like millions first, then you did it, or did you do it from the very beginning when you had like tens or hundreds of thousands?
I think I did it as I grow. So the early
Like,
stage,
when was the earliest time you actually went for like nano certified or whatever?
it will have been at the, I think, second or third year. That would,
So revenues were millions
3
or
million-ish?
yeah. Okay, so already in the millions.
Correct.
Okay, good. So I guess that you need to have that kind of numbers before you can spend like few 100,000 on certifications and stuff, right?
some of them are a few 100,000, some are actually not necessary that much. So we do what's necessary at that point of time.
So did you ever have like a big customer who say, look, man, if you get me this certificate, I'll put an order for 5 million or something like that?
Sadly, no, because again, like
You wish, right?
Yeah, I wish. At that point in time, like first year or second year in the operation, I'm like, oh, I would like a big customer, but no, I work with a lot with underdogs. So I'm an underdog. The partners that I work with are underdogs as well. So the underdogs all just group up and like, hey, we have a mission. We want to grow this together. So we grow together from there.
Actually, I think that's a common theme. I think
Yes.
Gavin also works with underdogs.
Yes.
Because if you're like a giant property developer, you're not gonna have any trouble, like furnishing or whatever. It is actually the poor first-time homeowner who doesn't have any experience, and he's the
Yes.
one who gets scammed, right?
Yes.
So in a sense, you guys built your business based on the long tail, not based on the big tickets,
Yes.
but rather the mass market. Okay, that's interesting that you both share that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, were there moments when the financial constraints forced you? Okay, two questions. First, financial constraint made you think of quitting. Okay, that's the bad
Okay.
one. And then the good one, financial constraints forced you to innovate or pivot.
I think
First, quit. Did you ever think of quitting?
quitting. I think I'm in too deep to think about quitting, right? There's too much at stake now. But just a rewind,
Okay.
just a rewind as well. The Makeover guys is actually not my first stint.
Okay.
So previously I've actually I've started companies and closed them down multiple times. In fact, I think the Makeover guys is like my 10th attempt
Wow.
at entrepreneurship. And the beautiful thing is all 10 of this is together with Vince,
Oh, wow.
my other
That's some
co-founder.
dedication, right?
Yeah. So in a way, yeah. So I think this sort of relationship kind of gives me the support system that I need, right? And if I feel like quitting, he'll be the one that smacks him in my head and say, "Hey, come on, man, you don't give up." And if he feels like quitting, I'll do the same for him. So
Nice.
quitting wasn't isn't in the thing, right? But balancing all this every day, right? Every day is a struggle. Because let's say if you get a big project in, you need money to fund it, right? And on the other hand, as we like I mentioned, I'm trying to scale a conventionally unscalable business, which means I need to do a lot of testing. I need to build a lot of tools. I need to come up with our own processes, and all this takes a lot of resources. And resources equals money, right? Um, but the beauty of it is, I think because I know that similar to Keong is do or die, and there's no safety net. Innovation is a given, is a must. Um, and one mantra we have in the whole Makeover guys, or at least in the leadership team, is fail fast. If we're going to try something, try it fast. If it fails, it fails. Then let's move on, right? And what's more important is when we fail, you can always manage the risk, and it's all about managing the risk of failing and then learning from it and then moving on fast. Don't beat yourself over it. So rarely you'll see a situation in the Makeover, at least in the leadership team, or at least between me and my founder, where we go, "Hey, I told you it wouldn't work, no such thing, right? If it fails, we know it's an attempt, it's an experimental, so let's just move on and try and fix the problem."
But I've known you as a very creative guy, so it sounds to me so far that like you said, try new ideas. It means that new ideas are born and you try them and you fail fast, or either you continue. But I guess let's just go back to the point of, did you face moments where you had to innovate or pivot because of financial pressure?
Because of financial pressure. Like I say, every day. In fact, the Makeover guys you see today is the result of all this pivoting and all this innovation because of financial pressure.
So financial pressure basically is kind of an underlying theme of the
It
whole
is.
entire 10 years.
It is. It is. It is.
Nice, nice. Okay, maybe that's the time to bring institutional capital then, so you can try the non-stress mode. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's either you get the sale, or if you don't get the sale, then we need to find cheaper ways to do things. Or even if you get the sale, are collections healthy, right? Are we looking at, what's my data aging? What's my cash conversion cycle? So all these things is the financial pressure, the reality of what it is.
But I can tell you that not necessarily advocating to bring in institutional capital too early. I think that the time for institutional capital is after you have definitely nailed product market fit.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that because I've tried both ways. I tried, 15 years in my previous companies of this kind of mode where you're basically hand to mouth and you just need to keep running, always constrained with cash. And then in my current business, actually, we were cash flow positive when we raised money. So the money that came in, we didn't intend to actually spend most of it, and that kind of serves like a cash reserve. And I can tell you that there is an element of de-risking, right? Because if you have kids, if you have a family, you don't want to be, kind of living on the edge all the time. Or like in our 20s and 30s, maybe, but I'm turning 40 this year. So I started to have a different mode of risk in my life. And so I think that there is a time for that, but it has to be, in my opinion, at your own terms. Like, don't let, for example, someone take advantage of the fact that you are under pressure to give you bad terms or something like that. So I think we'll get to that later. But let's see what Keong thinks. Did you have any moments where financial pressure forced you to change your business?
Um, I think I'm quite lucky in a way that I don't have too much of this, because I I built the business model in a way, right, where I can actually sell and I collect the payment in advance compared to actually giving terms. So that's my slower model. So the good thing is that, right, as I grow, as I scale the business, even my first year, right, I actually had my profits in. So I literally just built that. So I don't have a situation where it forces me to kind of like to had to take a dab or something like that. But there are other areas where, like, I wish I had more money. Maybe I could have actually scaled and grow faster. So, but that is more like a wishful thinking where I do not know whether I will actually reach to that level or not. And 10 years ago, right, at that point of time, everyone is talking about like, hey, you need to raise money. If you don't raise money, right,
You can't grow.
You can't grow, and you have to burn money at the same
Yeah.
time as well. So I'm like a typical Chinaman company. I would say, making this amount of revenue, this kind of profit has to be there. And and when I started, right, I mentioned this now, I got married, went for honeymoon, got my house. I don't think I have the guts, right, to be burning as well. And of course, the next thing is that my type of business is also a very traditional business. In a way, it's a manufacturing business. It's not in the mandate of a lot of institutional investors to invest in such company.
Yeah.
So I know in the very early days that there's no hope for me. No point. Just figure out how to actually get the funding I actually need to grow the business, which is through customers.
But for example, you sell in 50 countries, so you never face the situation where, for example, we've seen some like developing countries have, for example, currency devaluations, right? So you're basically sent the container to this developing country thinking that you're gonna get paid because you get paid in local currency, so or do you get paid in US dollar all the time?
It's in US dollar.
Okay, that's good. So,
Yeah.
but if you would have been getting in local currency, let's say they devalue the currency, by 50%, now you're getting 50K, right? And maybe that doesn't even cover your expenses. So you never face this kind of situation.
Correct. So this is why, right? When I start the business, I know exactly what I need to do.
So before you send the container, you have your money?
I wish I actually had a container order in the early days.
Okay.
But I had, so like I said, I work with underdogs. So we were just sending like few cartons out
wow.
via air freight. And I had to grow, I think by second year only, I start my sea freight. Even then, right, it was just loose pallets.
yeah,
so like,
loose pallets,
2 pallets, 3 pallets. And now it's like, okay, this is good. As we scale, then after I move on to like, a container every month. So it takes time to reach that level. But I put in a lot of mechanism that will de-risk myself. I sell in USD. My costs are in Malaysian ringgit. So whatever that happens, right, at the time, everyone's talking about, still USD is kind of like the stable coin. And I'm using it. So basically, I'm de-risking myself. If anything were to devalue, right, I will still be in a safe situation. And the next thing is that I don't give terms to my customer. If they want the product, right, they have to pay for a product first, then I ship out. This limits my growth, but I have to do what I have to do.
You're in 50 countries. So actually, like different people, someone could look and say, oh, wow, 50 countries out of 200. Okay, he still has a long way to go. While someone else who's maybe thinking of just one country or just Southeast Asia going to say, wow, what a champ, 50 countries, man. So it sounds to me like you were doing a bit of Goldilocks there, where you, for the last 10 years, were cherry picking the markets to go, while at the same time, yes, growing enough, but at the same time, not like pushing the gas to the end. Like, would there have been a way for you to be in 100 countries in the last 10 years if you wanted?
I think 100 countries will be quite difficult with the not every countries are ready for this kind of product.
Okay.
So my core focus has always been in the North America side because that's kind of like the hub of the automotive world. And the rest of the country, right, it came along because of my focus in the US side in a way. Because whatever they do.
But I'm from Finland. I saw you selling in Finland as well.
Yes, I do. But the population.
So like Europe is like 27 countries. If you just go into, if you were selling in Finland, very easy to sell in Germany, very easy to sell in Estonia, right? So you already unlock like 27 countries.
You're right. So if it's in Finland, right, it matches. And I mean, it's compatible and it works well in that climate, right? I will have my Norway, I have the rest. I have one use case. So that's how I always used to sell. It's like, well, you're interested in this product. It works well in this country and climate. I have proven customers. I have proven testimonial from the distributors. You can go along with it. And people were kind of like, okay, we'll actually look into it.
But would there have been a way to go to 100 countries?
Yes, there is actually. So I just need...
So you were managing your growth, actually.
Correct.
So you were kind of foot on the gas and foot on the brake at the same time. Don't want to go too fast. Otherwise, maybe... God forbid, touch wood, accident or something. While at the same time, your ambition was also still driving you not to be, for example, only Southeast Asia or something, or only US for that matter. You could also be, okay, I'm just North America, US and Canada enough for me or something like that.
Oh, it's never enough. But yeah, you're right. Like I don't have the courage to go into Africa
Okay.
I don't have the courage to go into Central Asia yet. So these are like, like even areas that I'm not in yet.
Right. Okay. Gavin, what are your thoughts about managing fast growth with cash flow? I know you have been doing it. It's obvious because you have like an army of people that are they need salaries, they need pay. If your customers are late for the pay, your workers won't can't be late because probably many of them like need the paycheck very fast. So have you been growing as fast as you could have, or did you just max out the growth that you could?
Have I been growing out as fast as I could have? I think I'm actually quite a conservative guy, right? So when it comes to even growing and all that, especially in the industry that I'm in, if I'm dealing with people's homes, I think there are a lot of fundamental things that we have to get right before we think about growing. Safety, quality of work, workmanship, and growing to me means that you can grow sustainably while making sure that fundamentals are there, right? And that also includes cash flow, that includes expenses, that includes paying salary and all that. I think we've been growing healthily, but is it growing as fast as I wanted? Maybe not as fast. But looking back, I think yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we have so far. If not for the pandemic, I think the pandemic was a bigger issue, rather than the organic growth that we experienced before that.
I think the paradigm of let's grow as fast as we can maybe is slightly inspired by the fact that many of the VCs have like a
Yes.
5+2 fund horizon. They really need to exit by 7 years. So, hey, man, I can't wait for you 10, 12 years. You need to rush, that kind of thing. And I need to find a bigger fool to raise at a next
Yeah.
valuation. You both
It's
didn't have to worry about
it's
that
like a
shit,
game of
right?
musical chairs, right? For them. But it's true, right? I think this links back to your initial question about did institutional investors actually in the early days, in fact, even now, right? I'm pretty worried that if we do take the route of raising funds from institutional investors, will I then get trapped in the game of being
Yeah.
pressured to grow for the sake of growing rather than grow organically or sustainably, where making sure that the foundation, the footwork, the groundwork of the organization, the structures are in place, the protocols are in place, before growth. Because truth be told, in our experimentation in the early days, today we're in 4 states. Some of these states also growing to some of these new states also gave me a lot of new learnings. And truth be told, hand to heart, back then, to me, it was really a vanity thing, right? That, wow, people are inviting the Makeover Guys brand to be in another state, to be in another state. Wow, it really was a vanity project. Looking back, the amount of time I spent building those stuff versus what I could have built in KL, I think that given if let me rewind, I think I would have put more effort in less vanity projects. Now I call this vanity projects lah, right? You do it because
Yeah,
you
the,
want to
the
feel
margin
good.
is not very healthy. The cost
Yeah,
is higher. We're not really very far away from our support teams and
yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So you basically always have to sacrifice the margin of the project because you have to patch things and hack things and stuff
It
like
need
that.
not only be margin, right? Because one of my mentors told me this story. So basically, this guy, imagine a city that's never tasted chicken before. So this guy saw an opportunity, he brought chicken inside, and of course his business was doing very well, right? And then after, as he had more and more chickens, he realized that, hey, you know, the chicken poops a lot, right? Can be then processed into fertilizer. And then on the other side, they also lay eggs, and he started doing a lot of things. And the moral of the story is every time you start something new, you take the people and the resources of the company, of the people who is very good at maybe, rearing chickens, to suddenly learn about chicken feed or even chicken fertilizer. And then they have to start the learning curve all over again. And this opportunity cost actually, in the long run, can really harm an organization. And for growing companies, it's very easy to be tempted by the next shiny new object that's related to your business, right? And to me, it felt like, um, losing focus. One success, suddenly you feel that, wow, you have the golden touch. Everything you touch, right, it becomes a success. And then you get tempted. I honestly, I was tempted by a lot of things. And post pandemic, today I'm a lot wiser. I'm more about focus and, don't be tempted by, chicken egg or chicken feed or chicken fertilizer, because truth be told, I think I'm not even at 1% market share of the regions that I'm in, right? So why am I being tempted to start all other places and all that? And yeah.
Are you at beyond 1% market share? Or
No, not every near actually. So this is why I think Gavin is right. Being focused is actually very, very important.
there's still a long way to go. He can
Still
still
a long
grow
way.
100 times theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's talk about profitability. Were you profitable all the way through, or were there dips where you had to sacrifice the profit of the good years in the bad years? I mean, of course, COVID is an exception, right? But let's talk about like other than COVID. Of course, everybody bleed money in COVID. We also.
Yeah. So I'm also a Chinaman at heart. So, when we look at the business, when I look at the business, certain revenue, certain things cost, but it has to be profitable. Because I think no matter how noble your cause, an organization has to be profitable for it to be sustainable, right? There's no point saying that, wow, I want to enable people to enjoy better homes, build whole homes, and then after 3 years bleed, and then you stop doing that. So I think sustainability, profitability is crucial to ensure that whatever your course that you're in is sustainable. Um, I've been very blessed that from the early days, I've always keep a close watch on my finances. Um, so we have been profitable since day one until, of course, COVID. That's when we took a dip, and honestly, up until now, we're still recovering
From
yeah.
COVID. Wow. So you did not actually come back to your pre-COVID numbers.
In terms of revenue, actually, even during the COVID lockdown, even with 5 months lockdown, only 7 months to work, I actually managed to get even higher revenue than before, marginally higher revenue than before. So in terms of sheer top line, we were at a growth stage, right? But of course, at the bottom line, that's when we really suffered a lot, because it's not just the lockdown. What happened then was, inflation. Construction costs grew multiple folds. Then there was the whole shipping nightmare, and then one of the things that we did during COVID in order to generate cash flow for us to survive during those MCOs was to do a lot of pre-sales. So pre-sales meaning, hey, we have this voucher. Can you purchase now, lock it down, pay a nominal
redeem later.
but you get a whole lot of freebies. So meaning prices were locked during the COVID days. Then after, when everything opened up, prices spiked, right? Certain things went up double, certain things went up 50%, certain things went up 20, 30%. But in general, everything went up around 30, 40%.
But you still have to honor at that price that they purchase. Yeah.
And whatever we sold, I remember during 2 months of lockdown, in that month we ran this campaign. We actually closed almost 300 pre-sales, 300 makeovers by B2C customers, and we were ecstatic because the revenue generated and the cash flow generated from these pre-sales was actually what made us survive. But we had to pay it back later, of course, when costs went up, and yeah.
Were you profitable all the way through?
Yeah, I'm actually profitable all the way through. That's how we actually fund our growth for all this while. But I think a similar story to what Gavin has, right, is that during COVID, we actually started producing like disinfectant product as well. And during the COVID time, right, was one of a few the best years in a way. It's like we have better numbers, but we also are having issues with supply chain. That means, right, our distributors were buying way more than they actually need. So they bought so much in 2022, right? And then I really suffered consequences in 2023 because when the world actually opened up and they are all sitting on stockpile inventory, there's no orders.
Of course,
no one was
they have
buying.
to finish what they have. Yeah.
Because they have to finish everything that they want. And so I really suffer. And then the next thing, right, is the cost of goods, the raw material. It went up from 50% to 300%.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And you can't jack that price to the customer. Right?
I can't. And I know that things are difficult for all of them, right? With the inflation and everything. If I jack the price up, right, which is what all my competitors did, it's just going to make things worse. So I told them that, look, I am going to tank it. And I actually did tank it. And now, 2023, I suffered. 2024, I recovered a bit, but we are still actually recovering in terms of the bottom line because it really, really hurts.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna ask about something which is a bit out of character here, but look, when you're running the company and you're your own boss and you can manage the growth, manage the profitability, pay yourself whatever you want to pay yourself, usually that kind of lifestyle business doesn't bode well with angel investors, for example, because regardless, I'm sure that some of them can be patient capital, be with you for a ride for like 10 years or whatever. So basically like maybe double the time of an institutional, but at some point he's gonna say, hey bro, I own less than 5%, you're living the life, but you don't pay dividend, what's up? So how are you gonna, I'm gonna ask that to you because you have angel investors, Gavin doesn't. So what are you gonna say?
So I got my angel investors not because I was looking for angel investors.
But because they want it.
Yes, because they were interested to see the journey that I'm actually going to go through. And at the point of time, I actually asked the questions like, I'm not really looking for an investor, but I'm actually interested to see how this will turn out as well. Like, if I have a third party inside the company, right, then I do. Because seriously, if you own 100% of a company, right, you're the king of the world.
Maybe
the king of the village.
No governance, But now even if they own 5%, you still think that this 100 ringgit that I'm spending, 5 ringgit is actually belong to someone else.
That's what exactly I told them. Say, look, even though this amount of money, right, is not like super big, like institutional investor, but I will still respect the capital that this money is important, and I will do my monthly reports and I'll submit it. Until to this day right now, I'm actually submitting my monthly reports in terms of document. I don't have to. In fact, they don't come and bug me and ask things like question me like, why are you not growing? Why are you not doing this? Like they don't, and they respect and they know that I'm trying my best to grow at the speed that I need. Because I think what Gavin mentioned just now, the sustainability is really important. Because I started this right, and I know that there's no such company in Malaysia. That means whatever that I built right now, right, I'm going to be the first. Because from my R&D team that I have built, I know that I will hire the fresh grad, and then these people, right, and as we scale further, they will
become superstars.
Correct, they will become superstar because there's no, sad to say, right, in Malaysia R&D or research department to me is really more like a QC department because all they have are technologies coming from other countries coming in here and then tell the R&D team, hey, localize the formulation using local raw material. My things that I'm doing right with my R&D team, hey, I have this problem right now. This is the limitation of the tech that we have and the regulation we have to comply with. Now start from zero and try to get there. So it'll be like, oh wow, okay. So we have to do something. So that's the challenge.
But do you think that still those angel investors are with you forever? Like, do you think that one day you will have that conversation, or you think that that conversation will never come up? Or are you thinking that, okay, if it ever comes up, I'll do a founder buyback. I'll just use part of my profit, buy back the shares, maybe give them a few multiple. By the way, they didn't ask me to tell you this, I'm really curious myself.
Okay, you asked a very tough question. I'm a bit stressed now.
But what would be your strategy? Founder buyback, or you're gonna find someone else like to do a secondary transfer for them? Or what if an investor comes and says, look, man, capital gains law is coming. If I have to sell now, otherwise I'll pay tax later. What are you gonna say?
Oh, most likely it would be a founder buyback. Most likely I'll be doing that because over the years I have built quite a positive stockpile of cash flow. So most likely it will be that, and but preferably.
Not
we
too
will
soon.
see. Yeah, not too soon.
Like, within the next 15 years or whatever.
Oh, stressed. Very stressed.
Okay. A bit out of script, but let's go back. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Careful financial management. Already went through that. Okay. Lean operations and scaling. Both of you have successfully scaled your businesses. Gavin, did you structure Makeover guys to ensure that you can grow while keeping operations lean and efficient. And I know that everybody, most probably in the good years, probably does a bit of overhiring. Did you have to go through that and then right size your team, or did you always do it right?
How I wish I could answer that. I've always done it right. But the reality is, sometimes you have to, because training takes time, right? And actually, truth be told, over the past 10 years, today I'm still facing the same jungle, all right? You have too many people, not enough jobs. You have too much jobs, not enough people. Which comes first? And it's an art that I think internally in the Makeover guys, we are still trying to figure it out. I don't think.
But couldn't you like split, for example, the tasks into like the high quality jobs, which is like design work, those you do with your internal team, while for example plumbing and that kind of stuff you outsource to other companies?
Yes. Okay. So we already do that. So just to give you an overview of how I structured the Makeover guys, right? So we've got three main groups. The first one we call the revenue team. So the revenue team consists of course, the sales, the designers, the project managers who actually handle the day-to-day operations of all the projects that we take. And the second group is what we call the growth team. So inside the growth team, of course, we have our marketing, our branding, our people and culture, which is our HR, finance, even the digital team, right? So we actually, how I managed to actually do so many projects at once is also because of a proprietary app that we actually created. So that's our own internal project management app. We developed it ourselves. And all this, we park it under the growth team. And the third team is called internal services. So internal services is services like, I've got my in-house electrician, I've got my in-house plumbers, I've got my in-house handyman, painters, wallpaper experts. So that's internal services. Now, of course, all three teams have their own roles. So revenue team is about, ensuring the day-to-day operations, everything is done. And growth team is all about paving the way, standardization, governance, handbooks, policies, coming out of all these process flows, standardizing workflows, standardizing design. It's all about that, right? And develop the tools that we're going to use. And internal services is in a way it's just a cost. It's no, I wouldn't say just lah, but it's a cost cutting measure, because if I don't have my in-house team, these are things that I'll need to outsource anyway. So they all have their own roles, and my job, my the juggling that I do is always, how much do I pump into the growth team? Because pumping into the growth team actually helps a lot of things. It helps put order in chaos in the organization, but revenue is what brings the revenue home, what brings the meat home.
Right.
So up until today, I'm still balancing. But over the years, based on historical data, because I've been keeping tabs on this for the longest time ever, we sort of have a formula. Is it perfect? I don't think so. But if you ask me, ideally, I think in the next coming few years, the ratio for the revenue team should be way higher. But in the last few years, like I said, juggling between cash flow, juggling between profitability and pumping it back into R&D. I grew a lot on growth team because without this, I can't scale to the next level, right? Because without putting order into chaos, I can't amplify the chaos. So if that makes sense. So I've been investing a lot in the headcount of the growth team.
But have you considered like how much of the growth team's work can, for example, be done by AI or something like that? Like, I mean, I'm sure some of the growth team, like sort of like AI can do a lot of things. It can, of course, come up with some drafts, and then let's say your team can critique it. It can do A/B testing. It can incorporate all your historical data of what was the design choices of all your customers in the last 10 years, and then tell you, okay, like 80% of your customer prefer gray or whatever. So have you actually adopted some AI practices to make your business less labor intensive?
Actually, I have. A big part of it is in training, right? So what happened was, after I have this growth team, obviously we had a lot of handbooks. So when we had a lot of handbooks, suddenly I had to develop this thing called Knowledge Hub, where we throw all the handbooks inside there, where people can then search for the right information. And of course, searching for information although it works to a certain level, but it has its flaws, right? If you search the wrong keywords, it won't come out. And then after I download the entire document, inside the document there are 200 pages. It's so hard for me to find the information that I want. So instead of using AI, for design and stuff like that, which I will say now I don't think it works,
Really?
right?
Wow.
At least for now, right? Until
Okay.
it gets smarter, right? So we use AI for training and things like that, where I set up a WhatsApp number. All my team needs to do is, hey, what's the paint code used in this particular design theme? It retrieves the information from the handbook, and then So to me, stuff like this is really quality of life stuff that actually shortens the training duration, hence resources.
But you can't attribute AI to a specific percentage reduction in your new hires or something like that. Like it still hasn't made such a significant impact yet.
Yes, it still hasn't made such a. To me, day to day is a lot easier with AI, but to say
So
that
you use it every day.
I use it every day, but will it ever, can it come up with a beautiful design and predict the trend and all that? I don't think we're there yet, but I do see it shifting that way. At least in next, I think we have a few years to catch up.
Are you using any AI in your work?
Yeah, every day. It's a no-brainer when
For actually, for example, formulations of the codings or just writing emails and presentation and stuff?
No, more than that. So I use AI in a lot of areas from creative work. There are a few tools. I mean, for Gavin, it might be a bit difficult for that, but we still can use it for certain marketing materials. But for AI, right, I use it to not just for formulation as well, but a lot more in terms of regulation, because I instead of like I used in the early days, right, I actually built like kind of like an SOP as well. Every department will have its own SOP, all put in. I put step by step every single thing that need to be done. And a new guy come in and say, you follow this instruction, all you need to do is just read. Then there's SOP steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 that follow. But there is still a problem in searching for information. So after that, what I do is that I took all this and then I actually put it into a whole database in the AI system, and then everyone's kind of like just go over there and like, okay, just search for certain things, especially when it comes to regulation. Like for example, if we talk about logistic regulation, it's a book with about 6,000 over pages. So no one's going to be able to search for things. So I actually use it, put it in there, and then they search what they need,
Yeah.
put it out in information. They can do it
IGL
accordingly.
GPT kind of thing.
Almost, yeah, but more. So I have like different chats, like for logistics, some for like regulation in certain countries, so you can search for information. And then, but end of the day, right, the person doing a job, they have to double check and see like, okay, is this actually valid and legit or not? So that's how we actually do most of the things in terms of AI.
But I think you once told us a story of that there was some outdated information in one of your like old few years ago guidebook, and then that was somehow propagated and that was not right, and then you fixed it. So how do you actually prevent this kind of thing? Like let's say the training data is a few years old and there is stuff that was discontinued but it's still in the model, and how do you deal with that in the AI and outside the AI as well?
So I always believe in rubbish in, rubbish out in a way. So if there is an outdated information, right, the AI is not going to be to know that this is outdated. They are just going to put and then tell you that. So they can't do the thinking from So what is actually required, right, is that something that I actually built my team is that I tell them like, when an issue happens, there's a problem. So you have to actually do a bit of a root cause analysis. You have to actually dive in. Why did this happen to this reason? And so why? Keep asking the why. And then until, right, you will go all the way back down to the source, like, so that SOP was actually wrong. And then you make a change. So never stop questioning why. You have to just keep asking why until there's no more why that you can actually answer. And then you found the solution over there. Fix that. And then everything will be okay from there.
And if they, after enough whys, they have to escalate, of course, the change to you.
Correct.
Obviously, they can't change like SOP by themselves.
So nowadays, right, I have my team leads, my managers in place already. So in a lot of areas, right, they know much more than me already.
Right.
And I give them their authority, right, that in this area, that you will actually approve of the changes, but it is all documented. Because nowadays, we really, really have to have a lot of like signing off in certain areas. Like this part of the things that you make changes, you'll be signing off. And if certain areas, right, that's beyond their authority, that's where I will actually come in, where they will either have to seek me for for the approval, or they actually just seek me for like advisors. So it depends on different the severity of
How
it.
many of those team leads do you have in your company?
I think I have one for every department. So I have my R&D, my manufacturing side, my sales, and my logistics. About four, five,
Yeah.
four.
And how many like departments do you have around that as well?
I have 13 departments.
Okay.
13 departments, and
Do you get involved in all of them, or they only escalate to you if they are stuck?
I have weekly leadership meetings, and I think in total we have like close to 30 leaders in the organization. So we hold that weekly, lah, and that's the one that I personally chair. But besides that, they chair their own meetings and all.
Okay, guys, this is a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. So I think now we want to go through the segment on lessons learned. What were some big things that you wish you knew at the beginning? Or let's put it in another way, if you were talking to the Gavin of 10 years ago, you would advise him to avoid or to do this and that.
I'll go back to vanity projects, right? Back to the chicken farm story. Yeah. So actually, there's a second
Too
part.
opportunistic. Okay, the second part.
There's
Yeah,
the
tell
second
us.
part to the chicken farm story, right? So because that guy got, he started being tempted by all this fancy stuff, right? Chicken feed, chicken egg, chicken this, chicken that. And every time he started something new, he took the best performing people of the old team to get them to start something new and then start the learning curve all over again. But the second part of the story is because he did that, then he was doing a lot of things. And suddenly, some new player came with better chickens, fatter chickens, cheaper chickens, big drumstick. And then he kind of lost
Yeah.
the business. So the key learning here was that when he did that, at how many people in the village actually knew about his service, and it was because his market share at that time was pretty low. That's why there was opportunity for other people to come in. And one advice is that don't go chasing shiny things, especially when you have tasted your first success, because then there will be a lot of seductions of ideas or opportunities and all that. And be mindful about whatever you're doing. Have you reached a peak? Have you captured a strong enough market share before you start moving on to the next shiny object? I think that's what I would tell the younger Gavin back then. Too many vanity projects.
Yeah. Learning. I guess, right, if I had to go back, and actually what I would do is to slap myself, right, is that to keep the ego in check, because I learn very fast, and I can actually do a lot of things by myself. So when I started a business, I literally did the bookkeeping. I learned bookkeeping. I learned even the website building, creative design, everything I do myself.
Wow.
So even down formulation, everything I do myself. And I'm like, oh, I'm immortal. I can do everything. But that, right, brings a certain ego. And then eventually I realized that like I can't do everything myself. You need more like better people.
You
and
become
everything.
bottleneck in a sense.
Yes,
in some
correct.
in some
And
ways.
but at one point in time, right, you'll be like, even when people come in, right, you get very frustrated. It's like, why can't this person do this? If I can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
So you get pissed and upset all the time. And because of this, right, I realized that the ego is so bad. And then eventually good people actually leave because I didn't spend enough time to actually nurture them to be better. Because I was just like keep thinking like everyone's the same as me. So if I can actually go back, right, I would actually tell myself, hey, you really need to chill a bit and actually understand that everyone is at a different situation, different learning curve, and they will grow accordingly. But you need to invest in them. And then that way, right, I can actually really build talents. So in the early days, I have to say I lost quite a fair bit of good talents, right? That if I think back right now, wow, they would be very good for the company. But it has been done.
Well, to give you a bit of relief, I also discussed with Sharmalacho on episode 2 that sometimes you also invest and they have an amazing journey and they become like 10 times as skilled as when they first came to you, and then they get poached. They get like international company offer them 4x salary or something, and you just probably can't afford to raise their salary so much.
Yeah, for me that's fine. I have people who actually poach for my company, like much larger companies, paying almost double, three times as well. But to me, right, I'm still okay with that because then I understand, right, that like, hey, if you come to IGL, right, I'm able to build a team or anyone actually come from us, right, that people from large like companies from larger companies, right, they will come and push you. So I take that as a pride for myself actually.
Great. So yeah. I saw this was not actually the first time I hear you talk about the fresh grads that become future superstars. It seems to be close to your heart, and I also have that experience. I hired a fresh grad for 3 years. He grew to head of department, and then after that he was poached by Australian company for 4x the pay, and I just even doubling his pay is still not good enough. So yeah, I agree with you that that is something amazing, and it's something to be proud of. But on the other hand, it also hurts because now you have head of department who's not there, and maybe there isn't someone else who can actually play the same role. So have you had this kind of gaps suddenly emerge in your team, and how do you fill them? Do you roll your sleeves and go and do that job yourself, or do you put someone who's less skilled in that position just to get by, or how?
Actually, it's a good thing, right? Because you see, there's this saying, right, that people who leave for higher pay may come back for the culture, right? But people who leave because of the culture will never ever come back, right? So I think it's perfectly natural for all of us to be selfish, to think about ourselves, think about our own career growth at least. And that's just the way it is. Um, but most importantly is when we design the organization, do we design it in such a way that every role, there's a certain role or there's a certain function that is really exclusive to one person's skill set? Then I think we really need to go back to the org chart and split it out and really work on that, right? And yeah, I think that's how I will approach it lah. But of course, truth be told, in the short term, of course there will be pain, right? There will be pain. It's just managing that pain and then growing more leaders within the organization in fact, actually, most of my leaders are all homegrown rather than outsourced.
So basically, can you give us some final thoughts, advice to future entrepreneurs? How can they, get started on their journey? Stay away from institutional funding, or do get institutional funding? Go to day zero accelerator program, or just do it with trial and error with your friend. Some reflections on that. Like 10 years ago, we didn't have day zero, we didn't have Kazana throwing impact
Yep.
funds. There was so many things. Like you, in a sense, you actually had to commando. You said bulldoze your way
Yep.
to success.
Yep.
But I think that the environment we're in right now, we are at the dawn of an amazing era, because there is just so many support being thrown at the entrepreneur. Of course, the entrepreneur still has to execute, but how would you navigate all the options that an entrepreneur has today if you are starting today?
Um, I think if funding becomes part of the equation of you doing that business, then I think something is not right somewhere. I think that funding should accelerate things. If you can't afford it without funding, that means your business can't afford it without funding. You probably shouldn't afford it if you have funding. I think we should always go back to fundamentals, right? Like a lot of people say that um, if I develop this feature, then it will sell better or stuff like that, which may be true for tech companies, right? So I don't speak on behalf of tech companies. I speak for other forms of businesses. I think most importantly, we need to create a value proposition, or we need to craft something new and different without sorry, how do I put this and get this to work? So let me give you an example. When the Makeover guy started, my proposition was pretty simple, and it's not rocket science, right? We do the makeover and we help you rent it out. And a simple proposition like this wasn't even available back then. And I didn't create anything new. I didn't invent anything new. I just took two existing things and put it together and called it a holistic service, right? And a simple proposition like that was very easy to understand and it solved the real pain point of property investors back then. And to me, that was what gave me my initial push. So of course, after that, I had to continue innovating with more and
added
more stuff.
digitalization
Yeah.
a bit and
Correct.
stuff.
But I think the mindset is what is important, right? It's not about back then when I started, I had to think, oh, if I have to give 3D drawing, instant visualization, instant quotation of every single thing, and then only this business will fly off, right? I start incrementally, just like what Keong did, right? We have to start incrementally. And sometimes a lot of these innovations happen, not because, not because I'm a genius, right? It's because I saw a problem and then, I just took two things together and combined it and then turned it into something new. So simple innovations like this have a lot of impact and can create very positive results for businesses. But do we spend enough time thinking about stuff like this? Or do we keep spending all our time drafting that perfect ecosystem, right? If I have the tag, if I have the warehouse, if I have the logistics, and I have the van that can do it so much cheaper, and I focus so much on this that I forget that there are incremental innovations that can be made to make you succeed, right?
Yeah. So customer centric, basically.
Yeah.
So see what the customer wants and do it, and then make it efficient, add digitalization. So you believe in going after brick and mortar business models, but then basic digitalization, maybe combining a couple of things, and then make it fly.
I think like
Everything should be tech enabled,
like
basically.
crazy customer centric. Really, what pain point are you trying to solve? How can simple things solve their pain point, right? It doesn't have to be like the next big crazy invention.
So you use, of course, digitalization. You have e-commerce, right? So that is an important part of your business. How much of your business is B2B versus B2C? All of it B2B, or some B2C?
I would say at least 99%
Okay.
of B2B. So I choose my battle when I started. So it's either B2C or B2B. B2C is going to be an expensive journey in educating. So this is why I go B2B. So I work with a lot of the workshops and everyone, distributors. So we do the B2B side to grow it. And even from then, right, I always still call my business like B2B to C.
Of course.
Because even though I sell to B2B, right, I need to understand like what Gavin mentioned, the pain point of the customers, like what's the issue that they're facing. And that's, as long as you solve their problem, right, they will like your product and they will support you because they know that you really care about them. Because you're not kind of like just pushing products like, hey, buy this now. But we are doing it because we really, really want to make a difference for them, for their earnings, and also to the environment. So that's what we really want to do. And then from there, we get the support. Then one more from us, actually.
Thank you both again for this wonderful episode. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well, as much as I did. I'd like to remind our listeners that the opinions, views, and content expressed on the Sunicorn Nation podcast are those of the entrepreneurs and guests featured, and do not reflect the official policies or positions of Proficio Consultants, Pinjana Capital, or the rest of the Sunicorn Collective. In the world of entrepreneurship, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Whether you choose to bootstrap or seek institutional funding, what matters most is your vision, determination, and ability to execute. Until next time at Sunicorn Nation.